All right, here. I won't talk long, hopefully. I was asked to speak about why I continue to dean. I think they want to really know why. Not just ask, why do you keep doing this? Some more of kind of a testimonial thing. I want to tell you two stories. One of them you've probably heard, very familiar with. It is from Mark chapter 12, starting in verse 41. It said, Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a fraction of a penny. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. Second story is about a man by the name of Bon Fox, an American fighter pilot from Minnesota, flew several missions during World War II. On one particular mission, his F-17 aircraft was struck by anti-aircraft German artillery, and even though the gas tanks were hit, the plane did not explode, and Fox was eventually able to safely land his plane. The following morning, Fox asked his crew chief, for the German shell that had penetrated the gas tank and did not explode. He explained that he just kind of wanted to keep it as a souvenir, and so he did that. The crew chief explained to him that even though the gas tanks were hit, none of the shells did not explode. He said, we didn't find just one shell inside your gas tank, we found 11. And he said all 11 of the shells were empty except for one. And he said in the one, the only thing we found up inside of it was a rolled up piece of paper. And they dug that piece of paper out, and there was a message, very small, simple message written in the Czechoslovakian language. They scoured the base to look for a translator, and they finally found somebody who could translate the message, and they read it as follows: "This is all we can do for you now." And they dug a little bit, and they finally discovered that a courageous Czechoslovakian assembly line worker was disarming bombs as they were being made in a German-controlled factory. And his message was basically communicating that he could not end the war himself, but he could save one plane. He couldn't do everything, but he could do something. And so he did something. So 2 different stories, one of them 2,000 years ago, one of them about 80 years ago, but they both communicate the very same truth, that God can do very big things with very little things. He can take the very little that we offer, and he can multiply that and do incredible things with it. And we see that throughout Scripture. So you've got this young shepherd boy who's the runt in his family, and he goes off to take some supplies to his brothers who are fighting in a war. And you know the story, one of the most popular, if not the most popular in Scripture. That young shepherd boy has a slingshot with 5 smooth stones, and he goes up against a 9-foot giant who's not only a giant, but he's a professionally trained killer. And just one smooth stone was all that was needed to topple that horrific giant Goliath. Or he can take a crowd of at least 5,000 people, and they're all hungry, they're hangry, and they're out in the middle of the boonies. There's no restaurants, there's no cafes, there's no Dollar General stores for them to get, even a snack, much less a full meal. But all of a sudden, here comes this little boy, and he's got a lunchbox with almost half a dozen loaves of bread, just a couple of fish. And even Jesus' disciples kind of laugh at the notion that this kid could feed just a few people, much less the entire crowd. But Jesus takes that which was very small, and he does something very astronomical with it. That is why I continue to dean at Camp Northward. My first week of camp was as a 19-year-old in 1997. I can remember it well because during that week, Gary Figgins brought down his brand new baby girl for everybody to see. Kylie had been born that week. And that's how long I've been around here as a faculty member. But I didn't start working at camp because of of what I just told you. I started working at camp because I was a new youth minister, and that's what new youth ministers were supposed to do. It's what the other youth ministers did. A couple years later, I agreed to assistant dean in 1999. I assistant deaned a little bit more, and then I started deaning myself. And I didn't start deaning because of those two stories that I just told you. I started deaning because I'd been doing it for a while, and so that's what you're supposed to do as somebody who's been in ministry for a little while. I don't have any astounding gifts. I think I have a little bit of a gift of communication. I think I get along well with young people, probably because we're on a similar maturity level. But it's my 5th grade teacher back there. For me la bouche, s'il vous plaît. But I believe, because I've seen, that God can take the little that I have, and He can do a lot with it. And that's why I continue to dean. It's not why I started, but it's why I continue to do it. I've performed weddings for campers that I've had over the years. I've baptized siblings in the Licking River that I had as campers. I have hired former campers as worship ministers who are now trustees. And just this past weekend, the guy that's getting ready to come up to speak to you, we just hired him at Antioch to be our children's ministry intern. I can't take credit for all of those things. It takes a village. But when you have a village, and when that entire village is bringing their 2 small copper coins, God can do incredible things through that. He takes the little that we offer and He does very big things with it. And so I have to regularly remind myself of that as I continue to dean. This will be my 3rd year coming up, helping dean the senior high week. So I have to continue to remind myself of why I'm doing this when I'm beating somebody's door down looking for just one more faculty member to fill out my faculty. I regularly remind myself of that when I'm putting lessons together for high schoolers, because truth be told, my evaluation is that a lot of our young people are biblically ignorant. I regularly remind myself why I'm doing what I'm doing when Nathan says you have to eat breakfast by 8:30 and I want to eat at 11. But I regularly remind myself of why I'm doing that when it's campfire on Thursday night and I'm dog tired and the kids want to stay up late and stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning. And I regularly remind myself of that when I have a young girl who's been living with sexual abuse for many years and listening to all of the depression and anxiety that's come about because of that. And I regularly remind myself of that when I meet with a camper who survived a suicide attempt last fall. And I don't know if what I'm saying is going to connect with him or not. So I don't have a lot to offer, but I offer what I can. And that's why I continue to dean. I've got a couple small copper coins worth of talent. But when I bring my 2 small copper coins, and when Gordon brings his 5 loaves of bread, and when Scotty brings his 2 fish, and when we all do this, God feeds thousands. Don't ever think to yourself, I don't have much, because it's not what we have that matters anyway. It's to whom we entrust what we have, and the one we entrust it to is faithful.